Slut shaming is when we insult a woman because she expressed her sexuality in a way that we don't like or approve of. Historically, we said, women, you don't give away your precious vagina gift until you're under the ownership of a man. Now society says, okay, fine. If you're not gonna wait till you're married, you at least better love him. The bottom line throughout the ages is that sluts are different kinds of girls who do bad stuff and disobey. Because of her bad behavior, we reduce her status from human being down to giant fucking whore. And since the slut gave up her precious vagina gift, she doesn't get respect anymore. Because women are taught to spend so much time figuring out how to please everyone else, women should be figuring out how to please themselves. Is that for women, promiscuity is considered a stupid decision. And when you make bad decisions, you pay the consequences. Well, what'd you expect? You were being a big whore. But for dudes, promiscuity is not a bad decision. Promiscuity is a very good decision. And even when guys do make bad decisions, they're dudes. Dudes make bad decisions sometimes. They can't help themselves. And this, my dear friends, is what sexism looks like. One of the major things that our society needs to learn ASAP is how to respect other people's safe, consensual choices about their lives and about their bodies. And I mean really, respect people's choices. Not like, oh, I'm not judging you. Silently judging you. I think that it will help women to stop hating themselves. I think it will help women stop hating each other. Girl hate is tearing fellow women down for petty and unwarranted reasons. It's a willingness to backstab and humiliate. It's being hypercritical of each other, degrading each other's bodies, and carrying a bitterness toward fellow women. From birth, women are bombarded with messages that tell them that their worth is tied to how they look. In order to be important, valuable, and worth loving, you have to look hot. The right hair, the right body, the list goes on. But it doesn't end with your body. You also need to be fiercely intelligent so that people don't think you're a bimbo. And don't forget to show just the right amount of emotion so they don't think you're a cold bitch or overly emotional. Oh, and make sure you pick out the right wardrobe because you don't want to be a prude or a slut. And while you're at it, make sure you find a high-powered career that will also allow you to be the perfect mom. No pressure or anything. It creates this deep-seated expectation within ourselves to be perfect.
Women can't even really breastfeed in public anymore. More and more women who breastfeed are made to feel embarrassed or ashamed or like, ooh, that's gross, or they get sexualized by strangers. But not only that, because of this expanding view of breasts as purely sexual, the idea of breasts as being attached to some fundamental function is being pushed out of the way, and women are breastfeeding less and less.
Everybody who has boobs feels like they're not the right boobs. Your breasts may be too big, too saggy, too pert, too flat, too full, too far apart, too pale, too padded, too pointy, too pendulous, or just too mosquito bites. So these insecurities are reinforced for people with boobs everywhere all the time. It's fucked up, and like no one is immune. And all of these people with boobs become fixated on their own breasts. Now, if we turn our attention to straight men or gay women or anybody who is attracted to people with boobs, they are also learning to have a certain idea about what these boobs should look like, and also that boobs are always sexual. Boobs aren't awesome because they all look exactly the same way. Boobs are awesome because they're boobs. They have an inherent awesomeness. People who don't recognize that and think they need to all look the same fail. Pairing men with femininity is seen as like an insult, like you're lowering yourself. You have women doing masculinity, not an insult to women. I think it's safe to say that there might even be some fear of the feminine. I've heard this phenomenon referred to in some circles as femphobia. Aversion to the feminine in marketing and products is one of the outcomes of femphobia. Another outcome is that anytime someone who is perceived as a man is aligning with anything feminine-y, it is perceived as a direct threat to Mr. Manly Man's masculinity. You can be aggressive, you can be intolerant, you can be hateful, but don't you dare wear a dress. Or so comes you're a fag, you're a pussy, and the violence. Another example is that sometimes in progressive circles, women who are perceived as very feminine are looked down upon. Oh, they're so oppressed, you know, they've internalized sexism. And while I think those sentiments are complex, part of it is coming from a place where we have learned to see feminine things as that. Because it's not the feminine stuff that is the problem. The problem is the expectation that anybody who is perceived as a woman
dress a certain way, wear certain kind of clothes, behave a certain way, whatever. The problem is that feminine things are only for people with vaginas and boobs. The problem is that feminine things are seen as less valuable than masculine things. The problem is the enforcement and the shaming when you're not feminine. I think that pushing back against this idea that men need to be super masculine and that there's something wrong with feminine expression in men is a great service to both men and women. It's just silly to me that men and boys who take an interest in makeup or more feminine clothing are somehow gay or mentally ill. That kind of black and white thinking, girl, that is so 4000 BC.